Hi, this is Carrie Schell from On Point Quilter. This week's video is all about stripes. We'll start by getting some striped fabric from the internet, and then we'll work with doing some cropping in Electric Quilt, and then we'll go on and play with some of the coloration tools, including rotate fabric and fussy cut. I found a great collection of stripes on the internet under Michael Miller, and it's called their stripe collection. And there is no zip file, but I can still get to it by clicking on the patch and then clicking on the enlarge image, and that will give me a better sized image. And I'm going to right click and do a save image as, and I'm going to go to my images file in EQ, and I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call this one Michael Miller MM Stripes, and I'll double click on it, and then I will select save, and then I can close this one down, and I can click on another one, and I can do the same. I'll close that down, and then I can go to some of the ones that are down here as well. Once I've completed collecting my stripes from the internet, I'm going to open Electric Quilt, and I'm going to call this one Stripes, and I'm going to call it Stripes 3 just to not reuse some of my other names. And I am going to first view my sketchbook, and I'm going to whittle down my fabrics by first of all just clearing out everything that's there, and I'm going to close that. And then I'm going to go to the libraries, fabric library. I'm going to import from image files, and I'm going to go to my MM stripes, and I'm going to select all of them, and I'm going to select open. And you can see that there's an issue with a couple of them here, but I'm going to go ahead and select all of them and add them to the sketchbook, and I will close. Now I'm going to view my sketchbook, and if there are those that need rework, and most of these are actually pretty good, and let me tell you how I can sort of take a look at that. I'm just going to first of all copy that one to photos, but I know I've got a problem on a couple, so that last one I'm going to copy that as well. I can see that this one needs to be cropped as well, so I'm going to copy that one to photos and close. Now I'm going to actually go ahead and go to the Photos tab, and let's just look at this one. I think it's going to be pretty good, but I'm going to edit it to the image work table. You can see that the scale looks pretty close to what we saw on the Michael Miller site, so I think this is very usable. This one, if I want to edit that to the image work table, I've got to get rid of the words on the top and the bottom. So I'm going to select the crop tool, and I like the left right because I think it looks like it goes pretty close to where it needs to be in the white space. So I can just bring the top and the bottom down with the scissors, and again I selected the crop, then moved the handles, and then selected the green arrow to accept the crop. And for this one I'm going to then do an image and add to sketchbook as fabric. Now I've got one more, which is this last one here that I will edit to the image work table, and I'm going to select the crop as well on that, And for this one, I can sort of see that the top and the left and the right both have the same fabric, which seems a little bit overkill. So I'm going to actually just bring this in and just pick up the left side of that stripe. And then I'm going to also trim the top and the bottom, which would help on my tiling. And I'll select the green arrow to accept the crop. And on this one, I'm going to do an image as to add to sketchbook as fabric as well. Okay, I also added a few solids to my sketchbook as well from the Bella Solid collection, but I'm ready now to go ahead and work on quilt. So I will select that button, and I am going to do a quilt, new quilt, horizontal, and I'm just going to work with this standard layout. My next step is to find a block, so I'm going to go to Libraries, Block Library, and under Classic Piece there's a section called Priscilla, and I'm going to page over, and I saw this one which I really liked as sort of a fun one to with stripes, so I'm going to add that to the sketchbook. Close my block libraries, and now I will use the Set Block tool and go ahead and use the Control key and add that. So I am now ready to start using my fabrics. Now, a couple of things that when I'm using my coloration tools, I have a couple of extra items on the bottom that you may not have. So so check your custom toolbar and click on Add Remove Buttons, and I'd like to make sure that you have everything checked other than EQ4 Spray and EQ4 Swap. In particular, we're going to use this Fussy cut, we're going to use this Rotate Fabric, and we're also going to do that Set Auto Borders in a minute here. So we want to make sure that those are all available tools on our right toolbar. So I will start by using the paintbrush, and I am going to paint some of my background spaces first. So I will actually use a swap all color, and I'm going to use this dark blue there, and for that one green I'm going to use a white. So now I can go ahead and pick one of my stripes, and I'm going to add it. I'm going to actually use the paintbrush tool, and I'm just going to add it to the 4 spaces there. Now, I do not like that orientation of that stripe, so let me zoom in so you can see it a little bit closer. But I would rather they run sort of parallel to that block in the center, so I'm going to use the Rotate Fabric. Now, the simple rotation is 90 degrees. That still won't work, but if I click on the advanced and put 45 degrees in there, now the first time I click, it will rotate at 45 degrees. I'm going to do the same there, but I need to do now one more click, and now it has it the way I want it, and then I will click on the next 2. Now, there is a line going through some of these fabrics, and that's because I didn't really spend a lot of time checking on the repeat and the tile, or if the fabric swatch wasn't completely straight, that could also create the issue. But if I use the Fussy Cut tool on the bottom here, I can move that fabric, and so I have the illusion that you still have a solid repeat in there, and so I like that. And then if I use my fabric tool, I can also color that center with a coordinating fabric. So let's select the next one, and I'm going to use this one here. And again, I will use my Rotate Fabric button at the bottom, and I'll use the 45 degrees. Now, some of these need to be rotated a couple more times so all the points go up. And one of the other fun things when I use the fussy cut is I can make it, let's say, so that blue is on the bottom. And so everything looks very much sort of mirror imaged as I go through that. So you know, another advantage of using that fussy cut. And maybe I'll use a light blue in the center. And again, looks like I could fussy cut that to get rid of that line in there as well. Okay, now that I've finished coloring the blocks, I want to go ahead and do the borders. So for the first border, I'm just going to stick with the 1 inch, and I'm going to add a second one, and I'm going to make that 3 inches. Now I have the all checked, so that means I can type in a 3, click on the slider bar underneath my left there, and it will change all of my borders to 3 inch. And then I'm going to go ahead and add another one, and I'm going to allow that one to be a 1 inch as well. Now when I go to layer 1, I'm going to use the set auto borders. And for this, I'm going to look at those single block patterns. And I'm going to select the 10 drop big and little diamonds. And I'm going to click on that middle border. And notice that it fills in the shapes all the way around. Now I can go ahead and color that as well. And I think for that inner and outer, I'm going to use that, and also use that sort of as a background. And then I'll take that blue that I used before and use it here. But for the rest, I'm going to use this sort of wavy stripe. And I'm also going to use it in the border. Now, when I'm looking at that, I do want the stripe to go all the way around the quilt. So I'm going to zoom in a bit on the corner there. And I'm going to use a combination, the rotation, and I forgot to change my rotation away from advanced. This one I just want it to be simple, which means that each click will rotate the fabric 90 degrees. So I can click on each one. I'll need to click on the ones at the bottom. Now what I'm going to end up doing is fussy cutting these. So where I have that little small black stripe, I'm going to want that to go through my big diamonds. For this corner, what I want to do is actually rotate the fabric, but I'm going to rotate it 45 degrees. And I'm going to do 2 clicks, and now I can fussy cut and sort of meet in that center there. And on this one, I forgot to do a rotate 90 degrees on that, so let me do that as well. Okay, I have now positioned all of my fabrics, and so I'm going to go ahead and add this to the sketchbook. I hope you enjoyed this video. For additional tips and techniques, please subscribe to my weekly newsletter at www.onpointquilter.com.